Welcome to the Weekly Juice podcast, where we discuss all things real estate, personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship. Whether this is your first time here or you're an avid listener, we're thrilled to have you as a part of our community. Our goal is to share stories of successful entrepreneurs and investors in the hopes that they assist you along your journey towards financial freedom. We discuss successes, failures, systems, motivations, experiences, tips and tricks, and key lessons learned over time. After each episode, you should feel motivated, empowered, and prepared to take action in your own life. Make sure to tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice. You can also find us on Instagram at Weekly Juice Pod, where we post daily content, personal finance tips, and document our own journey towards financial freedom.
Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey, here with another episode for you. Today, we had on special guest Myra Oliver. She is a former hairstylist that became financially free at age 33 through building her long-term buy and hold rental real estate investment portfolio. She at one point had 38 units, trimmed it down to about 26 or in the high 20s, and is now a successful real estate agent, opened 3 different offices with Keller Williams, and is teaching others how to do the same. She even authored the book Down Home Money.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that their 26 units are actually all paid off too. So she has a portfolio that's just raking in cash. And we actually get into this episode to talk about dividend stocks because as she got to this level of passivity where she's like, if it's going to take up my time, I'm not doing it. So she buys dividend stocks. And in this month, which I believe she was referring to January, which was the last month, she made $14,000 off of her dividend stocks. So she said this was a high month. She averages about $8,000. So she has, bought up all this real estate, let it grow in value, collected the cash flow, paid it off, and then sold a lot of it and put it into dividends. And there's nothing more passive than that. She's a Southern firecracker ball of energy. So get ready for an episode full of kind of one-liners and some one-hitters there. She's got a lot of knowledge and she's really willing to help other people. So I thought it was a really good episode.
Me too. Couldn't agree more. She's super fun, energetic, charismatic. I love the accent. She has it all, man. And it was an exciting burst of energy. So without further ado, let's bring in Myra. Myra, officially welcome to the Weekly Juice podcast. Corey and I are so excited to have you on the show, and thank you so much.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to be with you, and I'm even more excited about your journey. So it's exciting. Financial independence is life-changing. And so I just am thrilled to be here and just share my journey.
Awesome. Well, we're thrilled to have you here. I'm sure our audience is going to love your story, to say the very least. So if you could start walking us through the journey, just give people a little background on who you are and then how you got into real estate investing and the financial independence movement.
Sure. I am a Kentucky girl. I guess you probably couldn't realize that from the accent, but I'm from Kentucky, born and raised. I was raised by school teachers who honestly, growing up, they made sure that we had everything that we wanted, but not necessarily what we needed, meaning time with them, because both my parents worked 2 jobs. So growing up, I didn't get to see my parents a lot because they were working all the time to make sure we had the newest, greatest, latest, right? When actually all we wanted was them. And I lost my dad at 22. So I just started really realizing just how important life is and just how important spending time with the people you want to be with is. And so I, in my 20s, I'd gotten pretty debt ridden because I was going back and forth early on because I moved to Texas when I was 18 to put myself through school to do hair, because that was my God-given talent. And both my parents were school teachers, so that was not exciting for them. But my grandmother was a hairstylist, so I sat in her hair salon and I watched her make people feel good. And I mean, she was like an underpaid psychiatrist. Literally, I mean, people will tell you everything. And I watched people leave there with smiles on their face and her making them feel good. And I knew that I wanted a piece of that to make a difference. So that's why I decided to do hair. And so I moved to Texas because, hey, Dallas was on TV, man, JR. And so I moved to Dallas and I put myself through school and I started doing hair and bought a hair salon, doing $5 haircuts. So I got in quite a bit of debt. And I just decided, one day I woke up and I just thought I was tired of being tired and stressed. And I just decided I needed to change. And at that time, there was a great book, and I'm sure y'all have heard of it, The Millionaire Next Door, and Your Money or Your Life, right? And so I heard about both of those books. Your Money or Your Life came first. And I was like, okay, I've just got to get purposeful with my money. I can change my life because it's truly not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep and what you do with it. And are you buying passive income streams, right? So when I figured that out in my 20s, I got really, really purposeful. And I met my husband, and he was a policeman. And he was very frugal also and wasn't into stuff. And so we just got really tight with our money. We lived in an apartment that he did security, so we had free rent, saved our money. We drove piece of crap cars. I mean, we just did not spend our money on stuff. We just saved our money and we started buying rental property.
Love it. That's a really cool story. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate specifically to that because when you don't have your money in order, there's a pit in your stomach that at least there was for us. Cause at one point we were like that, where we're like, something doesn't feel right. I don't think this is how life is supposed to feel, the not having that financial security. So I want to go back to when you decided that you wanted to make a change. What about real estate specifically sparked your interest?
Well, I look back and I think about this because it's been a while, right? I've been financial independent for 20 years. So, which says a lot, right? It says that you can do it. You're going to find on your journey that it is a journey. It's not a destination. It's all about the journey. But I think that, I think what really made me decide is when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, you figure things out. And I was in a lot of pain. And we had an opportunity, and it's always about opportunity, right? And we had an opportunity to buy a house. And the guy, my brother-in-law had lived next door to this gentleman. He had no children. And he offered to my brother-in-law a great deal on his house because he had met someone who was getting married. And he was probably in his, probably 70s at the time. And so he gave my brother-in-law an unbelievable opportunity, but he couldn't take it. So my husband had lived in that same house that my brother-in-law lived in before him. So he said, well, give it to the opportunity to Rick. We took the opportunity. He sold us the house for $35,000 and he financed it interest free.
Oh, this guy was just a really good person.
He told us that the reason he did is because Rick and Randy had always been great neighbors to him and doing stuff for him. And he just knew that they were good guys. They'd go mow his grass and do stuff for him. And he wanted to do something for them. And so we got to take the opportunity. And so that was our first house. Do you know we still have that house? And it's worth $250,000 probably now. In the last year, it's gone up from 200 to 250. It's crazy. But more importantly, we've made over 300,000 in the last 30 years on that house.
Wow.
Can you believe that in rent?
That's it right there in a nutshell.
Yeah. We were thinking about this today as we transition our own portfolio over to property management. And I'm thinking like the more that we can get off our plate and the longer we can hold on to these things by not being in the trenches and dealing with everything, it'll allow us to hold it for longer. And if you hold a property, if you just do the math on whatever your property is worth, you hold it for that long, like generally speaking, unless you sell in the middle of a crash, like it's pretty forgiving. So it's really cool to hear that. Story.
Well, like my accountant says to me, Myra, we have depreciated out that house. You should sell that house, but it's our first house and I won't sell it. There's a lot of great memories there because we moved in it at first, and then we rented it. We moved out of it, moved to our next house. And so, there's just a lot of great memories. And it's a great reminder of who you are and where you were, because success starts happening and you sometimes can forget where you came from.
I really like that. It's so strange you said that. I'm in a different place, right? We have 7 units together, all in right now between Corey and I. But there's something about the house that I live in right now as my primary residence. Like I keep saying I want to turn it into a rental when I go, upgrade, right, and get our forever home. But I don't think I really don't think no matter how much it goes up, I can ever get rid of it, just because of it's only been five or so years they've been in it, but just the memories and just feels like it's your home. And it's the first thing that I bought for myself that I knew was like the right move. So I'm with you. I don't know.
It's also appreciated by like 120 grand too. So that doesn't hurt.
It has.
That doesn't hurt.
So the cash flow will be nice. But I don't know. I appreciate you saying that, because I thought I was the only one. I was like, man, I'm only 5 years in, but I have this attachment to this place.
Yep.
Well, you do, because you know why? I think the reason I have an attachment to it is it's the start of my journey. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made, and especially when I was in my 20s to make that decision. So I just hang on to it. I like to drive by and look at it. And I did a video on my YouTube channel, in front of my first house. It's just something, and I mean, it's nothing pretty. Let me just tell you, it's a little frame, nothing happening, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, but it's special to me.
We love it.
100%. And it's sitting there worth $250,000, and I assume you don't owe anything on it anymore. So
No.
Now we were at back then. Now let's fast forward to your portfolio now. I want to talk about financial independence, like the mindset behind it. But while we're on the topic of the real estate, what does your portfolio look like today? And then maybe give us like a brief synopsis of how you got to that point.
So great question, Corey. So I got there my goal was 10 houses and $5,000 a month to pay our bills. So by the age of 33, we had reached that, and we wanted $5,000 a month. We only needed $3,000 a month as far as to pay our expenses. So the goal was 5, so my husband could quit the police department, I could sell my hair salon, and we could be free. And we could travel and have fun. So we did it. I was 33 years old when that happened. And once we got to 10, I thought we would really stay there, because I really don't care about stuff. My motto is, I don't drive my money. I don't live in my money. I don't wear my money. My money makes money. That has always been my motto. And so because that being my motto, I just didn't care. I mean, all my friends are driving fancy cars, and I'd pull up beside them and I'd be in my crappy car, but I knew my car was paid for and theirs wasn't, right? So at 33, here we are. And so we took 3 years off, and 3 years of traveling, having fun, doing all the things we always wanted to do, but we were always working. And then I got bored and decided to get my real estate license just to buy my own properties, right? And because I thought, let's buy some more properties. And the time we've got 10. Well, what happened is I got in real estate and I went crazy selling real estate. I mean, I loved it. I loved real estate, and I loved helping investors because I knew about it. It was something I knew very well because I'd done it the hard way. And so anyway, we started selling real estate, and we started continuing to build our portfolio. At one point, we were up to about 38 properties, both residential and multifamily. And now we're down to 26 properties, and they're all the best of all the properties, the best cash flow. We've paid everything off, so we're totally debt free. We do have one commercial building, which houses my Keller Williams office in Northern Kentucky. So it's probably my best property because it's a triple net lease. And guess what? I own the Keller Williams franchise too. So I got both sides of it. I own the building and I own the franchise. So I love my tenant. They are a great tenant. They always pay on time.
So I just did some math for people that were listening here. What you said, you're down to 26 properties and they're all paid off. And I know that this number is going to be low, but I just wanted to be conservative with it. If all those properties were rented at $1,000 a month on average each, you'd be bringing in $312,000 a year with paid off properties. I assume that's low. So my point is that if you were passively making $312,000 a year, for anybody out there, do you need 10,000 properties? Do you need 1,000 properties? Do you need 100 properties? I mean, the whole thing here is like designing your life. And I know that you talk about being the architect of your life. I think it's so important that you stacked up your properties in a specific amount of time, took some time off, which is hard for us to do, and then went back at it and are still in a position of like great financial strength, which is amazing. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It's just amazing. So congrats.
Well, thank you so much. And I got to tell you, I am very driven, so I'm quite the hustler. My husband didn't have any problem laying back and relaxing and enjoying life, okay? We have two total different personalities. We would kill each other if we both were high D. And so I'm the driver in the family. And so I will tell you that taking off was kind of hard on me. I mean, because I'm so used to building things and doing stuff. So getting back on selling real estate was great because I could still feel like I was self-employed. And then, of course, I ended up being the number one agent in my town. And then I got recruited by Keller Williams to come run their company. And then I got recruited by the company in Austin, the main company, International, to go run their region in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana and put in franchises. So I ended up with 3 franchises, one in Columbus, Ohio, one in Florence, Kentucky, and Denton, Texas. And so you never know where you're going to go, right? You never know where it's going to lead you. A lot of people are looking for freedom. I love freedom. But what that allowed me is another passive income stream through businesses. So now I've got rental property, businesses, and now I'm into passive income through dividend investing. And I think that everybody's different. And yeah, I could have quit and not gone back, right? Because $5,000 a month as far as my spending habits is perfect. But I found that I really love succeeding and driving things and building companies. What I found is I love building stuff. Like just last year, I sold off 2 of my Keller Williams franchises because I had taken them pretty much to the top. And once you get to the top, I'd rather go down low and buy another bad one that needs help and go take it. Like my Northern Kentucky office, I'll always keep because it was at the very bottom in Keller Williams franchise system, and we took it to number 1 in the region. So that's what I enjoy doing. And that's what a lot of people do with houses, right? They buy houses and totally gut them and remodel them to make them beautiful again.
Yep, totally. And Myra, it's evident that you have a lot of talent, right? And I'm not mitigating anybody that's listening, but I don't know that we have that talent. So let's break it down for people who maybe don't have the amount of talent that you do on the how-to in terms of how you built this portfolio specifically. Like, let's get a little bit more granular with the details. Like, so you went from 0, obviously everyone starts at 0 to 30, high 30s, back to 26. Maybe talk about the building process of that, because I want to point out to people that it doesn't take somebody actually as talented as you to build the real estate portion of that. I'm not sure about the Keller Williams stuff. I'm sure that sounds like you might need to be a special breed for it, but the real estate specifically, like how did you build the portfolio to where it got to?
So first of all, I have a high school education and I'm not very talented, but that was a wonderful compliment. So thank you. I'm an ordinary person who was willing to study and learn. And that's about real estate. Okay. And I would tell people that are investors in real estate to get their real estate license. I think it's important you understand it so that you can know all the everything about contracts and stuff and know what you're getting into. But I also know that in real estate, it is all about the numbers. Everything is about numbers, okay? If you are doing this to build for financial freedom, you cannot fall in love with properties. You have to look at the numbers, and numbers don't lie. Just like in business, numbers do not lie. Profitability is where it's at. And so that's, for me, when I look at a property, matter of fact, I've made 7 offers in the last month on properties. And guess how many I've gotten?
0.
Goose egg.
Yep, big fat 0, because I'm not going to overpay. And right now with the market the way it is, a lot of people are overpaying. And I'm going to tell new investors right now that if you do not have a standard that you stick to, and for me, it's the 1% rule. I mean, if I'm going to pay $200,000 for a property, it's got to rent for $2,000 a month, period. Or I'm not going to buy it. And I'm sure not going to offer them $250 because I got caught up in the bidding war. So I just want people to understand right now, this market is, it is sizzling hot. And because of being in the real estate industry, and I know the business really well, and being in franchises, I understand just how hot it is. Hang tight. A buying season is coming sooner than you think, because we've got the stock market, we've got everything going on with all the, Ukraine and all the different things that are going on right now. It's really important to understand that all of that inflation, everything that's going on has caused this market, supply and demand. And whenever, supply is low, you're going to have the high demand, right? But once we level out, and it will, and remember, I've been doing this for 30 years, so I've been through this. I was there in 05, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I bought a lot of my properties in 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to 14. And right now, on every one of those properties, I could triple or 4 times my money. And,
wow.
and as short as 14 years, right? So I say all that because it's always, 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 always about the buy. If you buy right, selling right happens.
Yep.
You got to buy it right.
So would you suggest then, you mentioned the kind of that 1% rule as your barometer. Would you recommend somebody who doesn't live, for example, I don't know if you mentioned this on the show, but you live or you're from Kentucky. Where do you live now? I'm sorry, Texas?
I live in Denton, Texas. Yeah, outside of Dallas.
So Texas and Kentucky are known, maybe not Austin, right? But they're known for having properties that are better cash flowing than the Northeast. We live in the Northeast. So for example, for somebody that lives in the Northeast, would you suggest somebody to get to those numbers, invest out of state off the bat? Or do you think it's better to know your market specifically and try to build the niche out there? And I'm just basing this off of your numbers conversation. Like what is the strategy behind that?
Yeah, that's the great question. And I think that you need to work on saving more money before you buy that first property. If you're in an area where it's really high, so that you're not upside down immediately because of the different financing options. I'd make sure that you're putting anywhere between 10 to 20% down on the property, only because of the fact that, anything can happen and you don't want to be upside down on the front end. That is my only thing. And I do think if you have connections and some people in certain areas, it might be more reasonable. Kentucky is really reasonable. You would not believe the prices in Kentucky. And now you know somebody that has an office that can do property management and all that for you. So just saying. And so now, because those properties are working and they cash flow, just like my commercial building. I'm at a 14 cap. Now, do you know anywhere you can get a 14 cap?
No, I don't. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. So I'm at a 14 cap. So I just say that because, sometimes it's not right where you're at. And sometimes you got to get outside of your own little box to find out what's going on. My brother started buying houses in Kentucky, and he's buying houses anywhere from $40,000 to $80,000. And he's renting them for $600 to $800. And it's working for him a month.
Great.
And that's working for him. Now, they're not luxury properties. No, they're little frame houses, but they cash flow. And this is about cash flow. Right?
Well, Myra, I want to go back to something. Can you just explain the capitalization rate for people that don't know? Because the 14 cap is like unbelievable in 2022, but just explain that and how.
Yeah, well, right now, most people want to make 6%. Let's just do percentage because it makes it easier for people. Most people want to make 6%, 8% on their money, right? I'm making 14% on my money on that property. I think that's the best way to explain it for people. But I think that a 6 cap right now, people are paying and overpaying for 6.4. I even had somebody call me on I used to sell a lot of apartments here in Denton. And so I had somebody call me to ask me about a property that I had sold back in 2005 and wanted to know about this apartment complex. And so she called me and she said, well, it's a 4 cap. Do you think that's a good deal? And I said, no, because anything can happen. Especially with make-readies, because in apartments, people move in and out. And I've owned both. And I prefer now single-family homes at this stage of my career because, I don't want to do all those make-readies. And so anyway, so just a good way to look at that is, what are you making on the money you've got invested?
Got it.
Cool. Can you talk about obviously we talked about building your portfolio, but can you talk about the pay down of your properties? These are all paid free and clear. What's the thought? What's your argument here on the, I guess, the battle between using your cash to buy leverage and essentially buy more properties versus paying down properties and having them paid off sooner and just having heavier cash flow based on those being paid off?
Well, here's the way I look at it. And this is the way I've always looked at it. So I really didn't change my philosophy along the way. And I wouldn't change it now. But I think it's everybody. It's your own personal journey. And money is very personal. And we complicate money. So for me, I felt like that always that I don't like debt. I mean, once I got out of debt, I never wanted to go back. But I did debt early on to get started. I had to do debt just like everybody else. And then I got to where I decided, how much money do you need? This is the one conversation people don't have. And I find that it fascinates me that people never really look at their numbers and look at how much money you need to or want. It doesn't matter. Like for me, I wanted 5,000. Then I went to 10,000. Then once I got to 10,000, I thought, you know what? I now want to get to 15,000 and 20,000, whatever, however high you want to go. But I think you've got to decide where you want to go. And then you base your properties and your debt, and whether it be paying them off or if you have to leverage in order to get to that number. I think that number is the most important thing first. And once you've decided and determined that number, then you got to go break it down. But always remember, every time you buy another property, whether it's with debt or not, you've got another problem. So I wanted to make the maximum amount of money I could make with the least amount of properties. I do the same thing with my dividend stock portfolio. I want to get the highest rate of return with the least amount of equity in there. So that's just kind of how I do it.
I like that a lot. And I have one for you. Today, the most popular thing to talk about is short-term rentals, right? And Airbnb, Vrbo, all that. So you talked about having the most amount of cash flow for the least amount of properties. People would immediately go to, hey, short-term rentals, I can go and you're in Denton, right? That's, I think Galveston's nearby.
It's about hours, but I have a house there too. I have an Airbnb in Galveston, a beach house.
Texas, great.
Yeah. I have to get across the street.
Oh, everything's big in Texas, dude. There you go. So, okay, let's talk about Airbnbs and short-term rentals. What are your thoughts there on someone kind of weaving that into their portfolio? You know, we're creeping up on 10 units, right? And we're like, listen, we want the least amount of units with the most amount of cash flow, exactly what you said. So we're like, listen, we're thinking about a short-term rental, right? And we're currently in talks of getting one for this year. That's one of our goals, right? So I'm putting it out there. It's in the universe. We're getting one this year, but I want to know your thoughts. Should someone start with the short-term rental or should they weave it in after, you know, going through a couple long terms?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I had them in Panama City Beach, Florida. I had 3. I've just sold all 3 based on cash flow. And so I had 3 condos and I bought them in 2014, 2016, maybe 2015 was the other one. And so I bought them right. So my accountant and I sat down and we started looking at my numbers. And in Florida, for Airbnb, they charge 25% property management fees. No debt on these properties. So with $25,000 for 25% property management, and by the time I paid expenses for repairs, assessments for those condos, and one of them had a big assessment that hit me pretty hard. By the time I did that, I made more money and more cash flow on my properties, my houses right here in Denton, Texas, as far as my net income. And it's always about net income for me. And so I sold them, doubled my money on 2 of them. So, you know, I'm not hurting. But when I was looking at the cash flow and I'm looking at the property manager made more than I made, yeah, I got a problem with that. I manage all my own properties. My husband and I do, because they're all right here. The majority of them are here in Denton. I'm doing a flip right now in Kentucky, and then I've got that building in Kentucky. For the majority of them are right here in Denton, Texas. And it's just easy for us to manage them ourselves. I mean, it's just based on what it costs to pay for somebody, even though I have a real estate office here, it just wasn't feasible for me.
So you recommend, the long and short of it is, you recommend probably someone, and tell me if I'm wrong here, you recommend someone to start their portfolio with 1 or 2 long-term buy and holds to get a feel for it, right? And then if they want to dive into that market, find a market that A, you can self-manage in, or B, don't pay 25, somewhere that doesn't charge you 25%.
Because my Airbnb in Galveston. So last year I wanted a beach house, and all the prices were going through the roof. Well, you can buy a beach house on the beach in Galveston from anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million, and still you can still get a good deal there and be on the beach. So I thought, I'm going to buy one. So a house came up. I bought it. I actually got it for $510, and it had $50,000 worth of rentals still left. It was already in Airbnb, and I found somebody to manage it, and I give him a flat fee, and he manages it for me. And he manages the site. He manages everything for me. It has been beautiful. So I have no complaints on it. This year I'm on target. I'm probably going to make about 75,000, and I'll net about 55 on it. So 55 on my $510,000 investment is a good deal.
Wow. Really cool. So thank you for all that. I want to jump back to financial independence, right? And get people's mindset right, because we talk about real estate and how to get invested and steps you can take. And I think people get that, but I want to talk about kind of where your mindset is in financial independence. So can you talk about what financial independence means to you? And then I also want to get in the money talk of like how money was talked about as a kid growing up and just the stigma around bad debt, good debt, and just have that conversation.
Yeah. So financial independence for me is that I work because I want to work, not because I have to work. And now it's a passion for me to just share with people what freedom can give them. As I watch so many family members, friends that live paycheck to paycheck, and I watch a lot of real estate agents that live commission check to commission check. And it makes me really sad because money's pretty simple. It's money in, money out. And when you get that under control, you can change your whole life. And so, growing up, money was always really tight. I really wasn't taught about money, but I was extremely frugal as a child. My mom would borrow money from me to give my brother and sister lunch money. And because she wouldn't have cash, and I always had money because I sold eggs, we had chickens, and I did it all. Okay. I just was a little entrepreneur at a young age. And so my mom would come and borrow money, and I'd charge her interest. And she'd borrow money to give my brother and sister and I our lunch money. And so that was really my first things about money growing up. Was I just knew it was really tight, and I just knew that it was really, I watched my mom and dad struggle. And it made me really sad to watch that. And so as I was growing up, I worked 2 jobs all through high school. I was a cheerleader in high school, and I worked 2 jobs. And I bought all my own clothes. I did all my own stuff so that my parents wouldn't struggle. I didn't like watching them struggle, and I was the baby. So that's where I was.
Kind of the way that you grew up based on watching your parents that gave you the idea that like you don't want to necessarily raise children or grow up in that same way.
Yeah. It really was. I say that now. I can look back and say that. I didn't feel like that. I felt like I had the most wonderful childhood ever because I had the most loving parents ever. And all I wanted was just time with them.
So I really appreciate that. And I think you may have mentioned this earlier in the episode that you became purposeful with your money. And I just want, if you could share a little bit of advice, like how would you advise someone today to get their financial house in order, right? To someone that just hears a podcast like this and like, wow, I want to become a real estate investor, right? I want to start using my money, but there's behind the curtains, things are all out of whack. What advice do you have for that person?
Yeah, they've got to get started. And so the first thing they've got to do is they've got to figure out where they are. And it's about their net worth sheet. Everybody needs to fill out a net worth sheet. You've got to figure out where you are. You cannot go where you want to go until you've come to where you are and you've come to the realization, right? Acknowledgement is powerful. You have got to acknowledge the debt you're in and where you're at. You can no longer live with your head in the sand. And I think that's the hardest part for people. I was coaching a girl yesterday. I coach for free. I'm like, this is a passion project for me. And so I coach a lot of real estate agents, and I had a girl yesterday that makes $200,000 a year, and she was telling me, but I only brought home for my family $25,000. And I said, well, okay, so here's the deal. What are you spending your money on? And she had no clue. She called me today and texted me and said, oh my gosh, Myra, it's like somebody just smacked me in the face. She goes, I'm ridiculous with money, because you know what I made her do? I made her go look at all of her stuff, what she's spending her money on, and break it down monthly for me and give me a budget and what we're going to do this year. And she was freaking out. She said, I had no idea. She goes, I'm horrible with money. I said, sister, you just moved 10 steps forward, because you've got to realize it and understand what's happening, so that now you're aware. And then she, it's really funny, but she texts me later today and she goes, I went grocery shopping, and you're right, I started buying great value. I bet I saved $25 today from going to Walmart and buying groceries and not buying name brand. And it's so true. I mean, I did a video on it because I couldn't believe the difference in just buying great value bread compared to name brand bread and milk and all that. And I saved like $25 and with 20 items. So it makes a difference.
Yeah, and that's on like a micro scale, which is interesting. But there's a saying out there that the rich get richer. And the reason why I believe that is true is because once you have the mindset behind being able to attack your debt and build income streams, it actually becomes, for us, sort of an addicting, obsessive kind of thing, where that now every time you bring money in, you want to put it to work in some form or fashion. And I said this on a bunch of episodes. Every time we have enough money in our bank account, we want to get it out of the bank account because it's losing to inflation there. So I think once people frame their kind of, they block out all the noise, and they can kind of go a little bit more tunnel vision with, okay, what is it that I'm spending my money on? What should I be spending my money on that can bring me more income? So it's like, get money, buy income. And I think there's some people that we follow on Instagram that actually like have coined that saying, where get money, buy income. So whatever you can put your money into that brings you more money and have your money work for you, I think is, once that starts to happen, you start to see your net worth go up. And it doesn't just go up like incrementally, it ends up going up exponentially. And then the higher that your net worth goes, the bigger the returns actually become on that. So it literally is this big snowball that you start to push. So I love how you started at ground zero with telling people like, look, it does kind of start with your spending. Now, you're not going to save your way to freedom, but you can save your way out of the hole that you've already previously dug yourself in. So I thought that was good to know.
Well, when you don't understand money and you're spending every bit of it, you got to stop. I mean, you have to stop somewhere and look at what's going on so you can make the changes. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the first step is figure out where you are. Now, the next step is get on the budget. And one of the line items on that budget is to have money to invest, right? And buy those other passive income streams, whether it's stock, real estate, or businesses, or a side hustle. I mean, I tell people, you know what? We either have a spending problem or we have a money making problem. Which one do we have? And then when I look at those, and a lot of times it's both. They need to make more money, and they need to stop their spending. So you're absolutely right. I mean, once you start buying, I'm like you. I don't wear my money, drive my money. I just don't live in my money. I want my money making money. So I'm like you. I'm taking my money. I'm buying stocks. I'm buying, I love dividend stocks. I just think that is the most passive. And where I'm at in my stage of life, I enjoy that a lot right now because it's incredible, because it's truly passive. I mean, seriously, this month, and I'm getting ready to do my video for next week. And I think I'm almost at 14,000 I made this month in dividend investing.
So let me just stop you there, because that's a sticker shock number. And what I want to say, this isn't knocking in dividend investing at all, but what I would say, and this is the approach that, because you're at an ultimate level of passivity, right? You've beat the final boss. I think the point to make is that when investing $1,000 into a dividend stock is not going to give you any money to live off of, right? Investing $10,000 in a dividend stock is not going to do the same thing. Even $100,000 is not going to give you enough money to live off of. But if you build income streams that have the income flowing towards you, like real estate, and you hold a real estate property that's in an emerging market for 7 years and it goes up $250,000 in value, and you do that 4 times, and not to say that it's easy, but if you put $1 million into a dividend, that is how, if after you sell those properties, like that is how this compounds over and over and over. And now you're able to have that $14,000. I mean, that's a lot of money invested to spit that back out at you, considering dividends pay what, like 3 or 4% of.
I have some paying 18.
Okay. Tell us about that one. Cause
take us to school, Myra.
I've never heard.
Take us to school.
Okay. So here's the deal. Everything you just said you're absolutely right. Okay. It's easier to do it through real estate because you don't have to have money, right? I mean, it's as much money as you have to have in dividend investing. And I feel like real estate is not as risky. Because if you're doing the lower end stocks, the better stocks, like the aristocrat stocks that have paid increased in dividends over 25 years, you're absolutely right. They're paying 3 to 4%. And with inflation right now, you better get more than that for your money. Mm-hmm. The thing about dividend investing that I absolutely love is the fact that I don't really have to do anything. But if you are at y'all's age, here's what happened to me. I invested in index funds when I was your age. And within 20 years, I had $1 million, but I got the write-offs every year. So I would totally advise to do that also on top of the real estate investing. I'm in a different stage in my life. I've got my real estate portfolio and all that. So now I'm doing dividend investing as an additional income source, right? So I totally agree with you as far as if I was in my 20s, 30s, even 40s, I would do real estate investing first. Because you can get into a property and have the better yield than you will on a dividend investment. Makes sense?
Totally.
But there are some dividends, and I'm going to give you a couple ticker symbols if you play with the stock market a little bit. ORC, check it out. It's paying about 17 right now. And then also you can look at AGNC, and a lot of these are REITs. So you're involved in real estate, whether it be mortgage REIT or a real estate REIT. And so anyway, just check them out. And I think AGNC is paying about 10 right now. So just a couple tickers you can check out if you're interested in that.
Now, thank you, by the way. And then is this two-part question? Are these two ticker symbols something you'd hold for the long term? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I watch them though because they're high risk. Okay, so these are a little more risky, and I watch them, all the time. But and I take cash dividends. I don't take reinvestment. So, like in my retirement account, I do reinvestment of my dividends, right? Buying more stock, and my retirement account is going to have other stocks in it that are a lot more safe. These are stocks that I'm making money on. It's more of a money making thing, and they're cheap stocks. I mean, we're talking anybody can do these. They're like ORCs in the $3.30 range. So, I mean, I'm just giving you some things that you can learn with investing with stuff like that. It's just something to look at. And MFA is another one. So yeah, they're just some REITs that you can check out since everybody loves real estate.
That's great. And we actually are going to talk about Fundrise coming up here in a couple episodes and start to do some stuff on Instagram, which is also a form of investing in a REIT. And we'll talk about that down the road because that's the way you can get in for $500 and invest into a REIT as little as $500. So we'll bring that up in later episodes, but go ahead. Yeah,
I just want to touch on most people that we've spoken with, they say, oh, just reinvest your dividends. You're the first person that says you cash out, and I love it. Can you just give us a little strategy on that? And what I also want to ask you about, there's one, it's called VYM. I'm sure you've heard of it. I have it. There you go. It's an index fund of dividend stocks, right? Or high yield dividend stocks. So can you touch on that as well, and like why you'd maybe go an index fund route for the longer term than just picking like these three tickers that you mentioned?
So I have it, and I do index funds for my long-term, for my retirement account. I have a simplified employer pension, so my SEP account. As a hairstylist, I was investing $100 a month, and I did that consistently, and I did it on the Vanguard 500. Okay, the ticker symbol is VFINX. I did that for the first 10 years. I had $160,000 at the end of 10 years worth of stock. At the end of the next 10 years, and that's where I had dividends reinvested, like we just talked about, because it's a tax, I don't want to pay taxes on that money. This is my tax portfolio to save money. So the next 10 years, it ended up having over $1 million. So it took 20 years. So I just want people to understand, if you don't change anything you're doing right now, and you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck, do a line item of $100 a month, invest in an index fund in a tax sheltered IRA, and let it ride. And the compounding will make a difference for you. And it did for me. As the years started going, I was doing a lot more because I was able to do more because I was making more money, because it's based on how much money you make. But I did consistent monthly investments. So I want that to be clear that I think that is so important. And that's where index funds, I think, are perfect for that because it's a lower yield. They're not high yields, even though they say high yield, but high yield to them is 3%. Listen, I can tell you some really high yields, but you better watch them daily because, you've got to be careful. And that's the thing. So this is in a taxed account in my brokerage account that I'm doing the higher yield, and I'll take the money. Making money's making money. I love when it drives me crazy when somebody says, well, I don't want to make any money. I have to pay taxes. Well, listen, that's what it's about. You go get other things that we have to give you write-offs, but taxes are taxes. Hello, we got to pay taxes. I don't care. Making money's making money, however you make it. So I think that always cracks me up when people go, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to make any money on that.
You don't want to pay taxes on it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is a good point because we talk to a lot of people who are either the stocks route or the real estate investing route. And we're of the opinion that look, it's not diversify to dilute yourself. It's diversify to win in multiple areas. And then if you have 10 different investments and 7 of them are great and 3 of them are not, you're going to win more often than you're going to lose. So I think that having the diversification, we have 401ks, we invest in index funds and ETFs, we have real estate, we have some e-commerce, that stuff that we just started. So to be able to put our money in different areas, I think that is really attempting to play the wealth game. And to give people a strategy there, just like Myra said, when you're young, we would consider ourselves young, you're in your 20s, go buy as much real estate as you possibly can. Okay. Hold on to it for 15, 20 years, however long you can hold on to it, collect cash flow monthly. And then if you sell it at a certain point, you're going to be putting $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million, maybe even more into a dividends or a stock that pays dividends. And then you're really going to be as passive as possible. So there's a little formula based on kind of what you're doing, except you're still holding on to some of the real estate. Yeah.
That's a great formula. And I think that, I don't know why people want to put themselves in a box. I just like making money, and it doesn't matter. I want to learn, and I will tell you, I was a novice 2 years ago. I just had my set plan from being in my 20s. It was on automatic. I never studied stocks. I never did anything. I did real estate. I stayed super hyper focused on real estate. But when COVID happened, I was bored because I couldn't travel to my offices. So I was sitting at home, and I thought, I'm going to learn the stock market, and I started studying it. And I'm a novice, but I tell you what, I'm having a great time, and I proved you can make money. I have my journey on my YouTube channel. I mean, my first month I made $100, and now my goal was $1,000 a month, and my goal was $5,000, just like I did with my rental portfolio so many years ago. I just proved that you could do it. I just took my profits from selling some of my rentals and put them in passive dividend investing.
Now you're at 14K a month, which is insane.
Well, not a month. This month was 14K, but it's dividends are quarterly, and so So I think I'm going to average this year probably 8,000 a month. My goal's 10, so the average. But this is my best month because I have AT&T, and they've paid me $5,200 this month.
Wow. Can you just talk about the process of pulling your cash out, right? Like when you see I just want, because you have to pay taxes on it, right? So can you talk about just the strategy there of when you take out and then how do you calculate how much taxes you're going to have to pay on that, just so people can really start, if they wanted to pen to paper, do this thing themselves?
Right. And so qualified dividends is going to be at the capital gain rate. And then if it's other dividends, you're going to pay it at whatever your tax rate is, your federal tax rate. So if you don't hold it, if you're taking cash, even if it's reinvesting, you realize if it's in a brokerage account, you're going to pay taxes on it.
Yep. Cool. Very cool. So let's say, for example, you made $10,000 and you want to pull it out. You're basically taking out 7 around there. Am I right on that?
Well, you're going to take the 10 and then you're going to put it on your tax return, and they're going to send you a 1099 and at the end of the year, and then you're going to give it to your accountant and see what he can do with it.
I like your style.
And depending on what tax rate you're in, right?
Right.
That's why you have a good accountant.
Mm-hmm. And that's the importance of write-offs. And I mean, having multiple streams of income and multiple businesses, right? That's where you can start playing the game and really get fun.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to talk about your book. So can you give us, Down Home Money, a simple approach to financial freedom. Can you talk about why you wrote it and who it speaks to, and then what it offers people?
I always wanted to write a book. And I'm one of these people, I'm going to accomplish everything I want to do. And I was in a place where I was like, what do I want to do next? And I just decided to start journaling and writing. And I just thought it's the next thing for me because a lot of things come out. I mean, I love the book, Simple Path to Wealth, J.L. Collins. And when it came out, I was like, I should write a book too, because I've got a story, and my story truly is the simple approach to financial freedom. I mean, because I did it on $5 haircuts, you guys. And so I think it's important to talk about that because now my life, is really big. But I think it's important to talk about that I was doing $5 haircuts. My husband's a policeman. We never made over $100,000. We became financially free as a policeman and a hairstylist. And I think that is crucial. And I just told my journey and how we did it, what we did. And I just think it's important for people to understand. I have a girl I coach right now, and, she has paid off all of her credit cards and she's paid her house off now. She's single, and she's proven we all go to work. I mean, everybody goes to work to pay their home, their car, their essential living expenses. And a lot of times they don't have anything left. If you got those things paid for, you would have more freedom. And I think we just all keep moving bigger houses, bigger this, bigger that. And it's just not that important. And I just talk about my sacrifices. And then I share my journey and how then I become a business owner, because I did side hustles saving my money too. I mean, I did network marketing. I did a lot of side hustles. And I just think it didn't happen overnight. And I think that people have to understand that this is not get rich quick. It's get rich slowly.
Get rich, definitely, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say people are really interested and they want to learn about finding the right real estate deals, or even like funding these real estate deals. Let's say they really want to get involved. Maybe they have some of their own, but they want to take it to the next level, kind of like you did. Like, what was your strategy for finding these deals and funding them as you started to grow your portfolio?
I never had a problem knocking on a door. So I would tell you to be willing to do what others won't, especially in this market, because listings are hard to find. So I think that, especially if you're starting small and you see a little neighborhood you like, go knock doors to see what you can, who you can find. Also, I'm going to tell you a untouched market, and I'm finding it more and more here in my town. And that is people who are selling their portfolios and
like
financing it because they've paid them all off. I know of probably 5 people that I was their real estate agent years ago who are now in their late 60s, early 70s. And 2 of them called me and said, who do you know that might buy my portfolio, pay me whatever the value is at this point, I'll finance it. I just want to make 5%. And so to them, they don't have to go take care of toilets and all that stuff that goes with owning rental property, but they're making 5% on their money, and they love that because they don't have the stress of paying all the bills. So that's a whole market that people haven't really tapped into. Thinking about calling those people and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in looking at buying at your portfolio if you're willing to finance it."
And that goes to find someone that would be doing this, right? It's knocking doors, but it's also connecting with your real estate agent, right? And feeding off their connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about this all the time. You can't just sit behind a computer all day and study the numbers and run properties. You need to get out there and build your network, because what your network is your net worth. I say it a million times, but it's true. It just goes down to the importance of building your network. And I think that's super important for people. Like I said, you can't just sit behind the computer all day and study. It's taking action and getting out in front of it. And like you said, it's putting feelers around. So I think it's super important to note. I have a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about. First one is, a lot of people have this mindset where they're like, hey, I can't invest because I'm in debt still. I know so many people, this is a big thing in my friend group, right? A lot of people are out of college and they have so many student loans, and they hear us talking on the podcast about investing. They're just like, that's something I can't do. Like I just won't be able to do it because I have between $500 and $1,000 per month in student loan payments. Maybe those numbers are higher or lower for some, but what do you recommend for those people?
I recommend get a side hustle. I recommend that, you know what, you got to go make more money. Here's the deal. You got to go make more money and maybe find something that you enjoy doing. What is your passion? Because if you don't get that debt under control, you're going to be in trouble. And we all know it because you've got to get that under control or go make more money. So because you've got to have some money left in order to invest. It takes money to make money. We all know that. And I have no problem with leverage when you're young. When I talk to people, they're in their 50s and they haven't even paid their house off, they got debt. That's a problem, right? Because they're going to then be in their 70s struggling. And we've got a nation that a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, 70% of our population. And so it's so important that you get that under control at a young age because it's so acceptable at y'all's age right now, right? It's very acceptable that you have debt. But what if you were different than everybody else? Where would you be if you got that under control? So let's say it is $500 a month. So what can you go do and make an extra $500 a month? So maybe you have to do something, work a couple nights a week somewhere, or do a side hustle, or do whatever. But what can you do to make that $500? So now you have an extra $500 from your normal income or your whatever you are doing. I just think where there's a will, there's a way. And I think that's what separates the men from the boys.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good sentiment there because we put up a post on our Instagram that some people got mad about. We're saying that a lot of the problems with some of the problems with millennials is that they're spending 50% of their income on their housing, and people lost their minds on us. And we're saying that, a lot of the post actually did very well. A lot of people liked it. I should say it's a very small percentage of people were like annoyed. That's like, well, we can't control this. We can't do that. It's more like 75%. And my thought to this, and it was like, to go off what you're saying, is like, you got to remove yourself from the norm. If you're going to be different, you have to remove yourself from the mindset of the norm. And if that means not living in the really nice apartment downtown for $2,700 a month, which might be cheap in some cities, if it means moving away from where the action is to try to save and try to house hack and try to pick up a side hustle and work till 12 at night, like, you don't have to do it. But if you want to succeed and be different, you're going to have to do something different. That's going to be away from what all the people that look like they're really enjoying and living in the moment and not thinking about that. There will come a time later that you're like, ooh, I don't have any money left to show for it. And we want people to be happy, but if there's a problem in your life with money, the sacrifices will probably need to be made. And that's just something to go off there.
I used to, I look back and I really realize how, I did sacrifice. Okay. This is not easy, and delayed gratification is hard, but I'm going to tell you it's worth it. But I will say that I would pull up. I had a car that my husband bought at the auction that didn't even have a front passenger seat. Seriously, it was a courier's car. So it didn't even have a front passenger seat. It was a little Honda hatchback. And I drove that back and forth to work. I'd pull up next to my girl that worked for me in her Escalade, brand new. And then on the other side of me in her SUV also. And I go in, I cut hair, and I was the one working 14-hour days. They would go home, they'd go to lunch and spend $20 on lunch. And they would go do all the things I did. And I'd bring my lunch. And I drive that piece of crap car because you know what? I knew where I was going to be. And do you know that one of them has now passed because she was quite a bit older than me, but I gave her the opportunity to own that salon. I sold the salon to her, but she worked right up until she passed, because if you don't get in control of money, you will always be a prisoner of money.
I couldn't agree more. And something that Ryan and I have shared separately on episodes. I don't know if we've talked about this together. We both separately had Mercedes Benzes. They're relatively new, and we both sold them. So we decided to make a decision in our lives to say, look, I am going to delay this gratification. And Ryan and I, we wouldn't call ourselves flashy guys, but we like nice things. But we're willing to put all of that on hold for a time later where all of our income different income streams are able to pay for these things. So I just looked the other day, I just realized, wow, I bought my car. I bought a hatchback in 2018. It just hit 10 years old. And it's not a crappy car by any means. It's a Lexus, but it's 10 years old, right? So I owe not a lot on it. And I'm thinking to myself, now my goal is like, how long can I hold on to this thing for? It's amazing what happens in your brain. It's like, can I hold on to this thing for another 5 years? Because I really want a Tesla, right? But I can't, I'm not going to do it now. It's like almost you play these games inside of your own head to force yourself to push in the direction of building the wealth once you have it stuck in your brain. So I think it's not, maybe it's not this way for everybody, but it sounds like it was this way for you, where the businesses that you built and the real estate that you built, you were almost took pride in looking around and saying, I have this old piece of crap car, but it's like, look at the freedom that I'm able to go spend my life doing. So
I'll tell you something funny. I have a 6-year-old car now, and it drives my husband crazy because he loves a new car, but he goes and pays cash for it. So he can go buy any new car he wants. But for me, it's not like that. And so I have a little condo in Kentucky because I go back and forth to my business there. And I pull up and I have a little car. It's a little Kia Soul.
I had a Kia Soul.
Oh, it's precious. It's 12 years old. Okay. And it has a Texas license plate. So I pull up and I park, all my agents have these Mercedes, these Lex. I mean, they all got really nice cars. Okay. Because they believe in spending their money on cars. So I laugh, I go in and the guy at the front desk, he's laughing. He goes, if only anybody in this office knew that you're the owner of this office and you're driving the least expensive car in the parking lot. I said, that's why I'm the owner of this office.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And it goes, you live different, right? We talked about that, and just, it's funny. You mentioned $60,000, right? $5,000 a month in expenses.
Yeah.
You're still currently at that or close to that. Are you not, having all these businesses?
Yeah. Yeah, I live really frugal. I mean, everything I've got's paid for, so I don't have any debt. And I live really frugal. And not even because if I want it, I will buy it. Okay. I just don't want it. You nailed it, Corey, when you said that your mindset starts changing. And I like what my money can do. And I like that I can help people and do things. And I have right now, what do I have? 7 great nieces and nephews. So I buy a lot of diapers right now. I mean, they get care packages on their front porch, trying to help them because it's very expensive with babies. And so I do stuff like that. I'd rather spend $3,000 a month helping my nieces and nephews get along and do well than I would on myself. I don't need new clothes. I don't need more stuff. I don't need stuff.
Well, Myra, I think it would be important to note the optionality that you have with your life. If you wanted to pick up tomorrow and take those nieces and nephews to Disney World or something that you wanted to do and you wanted to spend a week, you're not looking over your shoulder asking somebody if you can do that. And that's exactly right. Highly important for just freedom. Like freedom, right? Security, freedom, but also like, what does that do for your mental headspace where you just, you live in this, in a great country that allows you to have built that. And it's like, now you can enjoy the fruits of your labor because of the work that you put in. So I love it. I think we've made it to the second to last segment, or you got something right before? I have one more before this, because you mentioned side hustles a lot and we didn't pick a specific one. Yeah. Do you think becoming a real estate agent is a side hustle, or someone's going to need to dedicate to scrap their W-2 and go all in that lane? Because we know there's some weekend warriors out there that are doing the real estate. They are selling real estate. I just want to know your thoughts. I know you've opened up multiple offices and you've done this for years. So coming from an ace, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts.
I think that I would have to sit down with you and ask you questions. So for me right now in Kentucky, I'm giving away real estate school at my office. Anybody that wants school, I will give you free real estate school because it's about being able to do that, and I can do that. So that's what I'm doing in Kentucky right now. And what I have found is that when I sit down with people and I ask them questions, what do you want? Because the sky's the limit. You know what I love about real estate? Is this little girl here has a high school, one of the best Kentucky educations, but that real estate license took me to places that I never dreamed that I could go to financially. And so I'm so grateful because I don't have that college expense. I didn't have to go get that PhD, which sometimes doesn't pay, right? But what real estate allowed me to do is it allowed me to make unbelievable amounts of money with no cap and no limit. So I just would ask questions. What is it that you want? Some people say to me, I just want to make $50,000 a year. Great. I can teach you how to do that. And we can have you up and running. You'll make $50,000 your first year of selling real estate. Some people say, I want to build an empire and I want it to be passive and I would like to make $1 million a year and I live somewhere else. Great. I need a 5-year commitment. And I've got a book that tells you exactly how to do that. That's called the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I will show you how to do that. And I have done that with 4 agents so far. Because that's the 3%ers that get that stuff. It's the ones that are willing to do what others won't to get what they want. And that's hard to find people that want that.
Totally. Myra, I was curious I mean, anybody who can make $1 million a year is doing something special. But if somebody wanted to make an extra $50,000 a year, which is a pretty lucrative side hustle, even in side hustle themselves, how many hours do you think in the system that you have would that take somebody per week or per month? Or I'm just curious based on like an average.
Yeah, and that's hard to tell because it depends on their contacts because real estate is a contact sport. Yep. So I would need to know, I need to see, do you have contacts? Are we going to have to do this through cold market? Because everybody's different. Like you put me in the middle of my town where I was raised and grew up. I knew everybody. My mom and dad were their school teachers. I could just pick up the phone and have plenty of leads and start selling houses. But somebody that moves to an area and they don't know anybody, then I would take them and put them on a team that already has all that and has systems in place so they could immediately start answering the phone, smiling and dialing and, showing property and making money. So it just would depend. I mean, there's questions that have to be involved. It's not as easy as saying you need to work an hour a week. It's more about who do you know? It's always about the who. Who do you know? Just like in business, it's for me, it's always about who do I know? Because you're one great hire from having anything you want. I've learned that about business. One great hire. Yeah, one great hire can change everything.
Wow, really cool. Thanks for that. I really appreciate it. People ask us all the time if they should become a real estate, if they're an investor, should they become a real estate agent? And you already said absolutely, but then also to potentially leave your W-2 and do that full time. Clearly the sky's the limit, right? Actually, sorry, one last one on this. Yeah. Benefits with becoming a real estate agent, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so someone has a nice corporate job, they have maternity leave, they have insurance. What does that even exist in a real estate office or no? And how do you get it?
There's possibly some companies out there that make you an employee. But at my office, I am in an office full of entrepreneurs. I have over 200 agents in my office. And they are entrepreneurs deluxe. They decide what they want, when they want, and how they want it. We do have some group insurance policies that they can participate in. But for the most part, you are just like starting your own business. Right. So for the most part, you're going to have to figure out that benefit package. You're going to have to do your own SEP plan. I teach wealth building. So at my office, they're going to have people teaching them on how to build that retirement plan that you would have gotten in the 401k. So I'm teaching them to do their SEP and get that wonderful write-off because, it's up to $57,000 a year. So that's a much bigger write-off. And they're going to need it because here's the deal. Real estate is just amazing. We can take ordinary people and they can become millionaire real estate agents making $1 million in a year just by doing all the things. And we've got it figured out. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that's what's really important to know. And it's just getting people to follow. You know how people are. Everybody wants to reinvent the wheel. And you don't have to in real estate.
Do you teach this for people that don't come to work for your office? Is that a thing?
Yeah, you know what? I do all open training, open everything, because I feel like that as realtors, we need to all be better. So I invite all the offices in Northern Kentucky when I'm teaching or anything. I invite everybody. Same thing here in Denton, Texas. Just because of, we can all be better. And you know what? The only competition I got, I look at her every morning in the mirror. And I tell people that all the time. Other people are not your competition. You are your competition. Will you do it or not? Will you make the calls? Will you go shake the hands, kiss the babies, and ask for listings? There you go. That's how you sell real estate.
Done.
Do it.
Mic drop. Love it.
Cool. So we made it to the second last segment of our show. It's called the Core Four. We're going to get to
Does everybody make to it? Does everybody make it to the last segment?
You're 99 episodes and you're the 99th person to get here. So
okay, good.
yes,
okay, I was just making sure.
Everyone's made it. Yeah. So, but this is where we get to know you a little bit more personally and kind of what makes you tick. Although you opened up a little bit about that during the show. But first question is, what is your favorite real estate investing or business book? Maybe besides your own, which we will plug.
So for real estate or for financial freedom?
I would say.
How about both?
Yeah, both real estate and financial freedom. I'm sure they're different books.
Okay, so financial freedom, I love A Simple Path to Wealth. J.L. Collins.
J.L. Collins, yeah. I love
that's
that.
a great.
That's one of my go-to.
He sent me his. I sent him my book, and he sent me his book, and I will cherish that book. And it just says to a fellow author, and I love the name Down on Money. It's
So
what
cool.
he signed my book. But I love him. I think that he's old school, and I say that because I'm old school. But you know what? Here's the thing: we proved is it wasn't cool to do financial freedom when we did it. Okay, we didn't have all the support that everybody has now. So which is great for y'all because you see that we did it and we made it on the other end where you're going, right? So you get to see people that made it. And I think that's pretty cool.
I have no doubt that when you were doing this, it was 10 times as hard as when we're doing it. Like, it's not even close. But you didn't have the internet. You didn't have people you had the internet in a lot of the most recent years. But I'm saying, like, if you're doing this in the 90s or in the 80s or whatever, like you go to the library, you got to figure all this out on your own. You don't have this. We have this little mini computer that we carry around in our pocket that gives us all the answers to every test. So it's like,
exactly right.
it's the easiest time ever to make money. And we're fully aware of that. So that's awesome that you've paved the way.
Yeah, I think
I love you guys. Y'all are the next. You're the next generation. They're making it happen, and I love that because honestly, you've got to support each other because it's really easy to get off the path. Because here's the what you have that I didn't have. You're right. We didn't have the internet, but I also didn't have Instagram. Everybody bragging about all the stuff they have. So it's a little easier to not have stuff. Because I didn't have all of that in front of me every day, driving my new Lambo, and I got my Gucci stuff, and and women today with all the plastic surgery and all the, they're all flaunting all their stuff that they're getting done. I'm just so glad that I didn't have all that because
it's a new world.
I probably would have become a victim. I'm no different than anybody else. We all have temptation, and if I'd had it in my face 24/7, who knows what my trajectory would have been. So I'm grateful for my, the time I was raised.
Pros and cons to it for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's a distraction for some people, right? Or you can go the route of dropping all those, what do I call them, like unhealthy follows, right? And then just follow people in the 5 moving real estate investment movement and turn your network or like everything you're consuming on a daily basis into education, right? And then that will at least help you out, whether you take action or not. That's up to you. But so Simple Path to Wealth.
I love Chad's book. I thought his book was excellent for people starting out. He kept it simple. I think that is the key. I think sometimes people complicate money and real estate and everything. So I love Chad's book. And then I love Rich Dad Poor Dad because I read it early on, and I went to Robert Kiyosaki's seminar when he had it in Dallas early on, and his wife. And so I became part of that movement. I read all those books, the Cash Flow Quadrant, and all of those, and I thought they were great. I think books keep you going and keep you focused on what you're doing. So I'm a big reader of everything, and I love Grant Sabate. I don't know if you've read his Financial Freedom book. So it's another great book.
The one that you were just talking about, Chad Carson, Retire Early with Real Estate. We've talked about that on a number of shows. Chad's the man. We've been hyping him up recently. So that's how we
he's a great guy too.
Yeah, he is a great guy.
Yeah.
From the South like you, which is awesome. Question 2.
Yeah, question 2 is, what's been your biggest mistake along your investing journey that you've experienced, and then how have you overcome it?
I bought emus.
You bought what?
My biggest, yes, my biggest mistake was I bought emus. So in the 90s, emus, they started talking about the emu meat. The emu oil was going to do everything, cure everybody with every problem they had, ailment they had. And so I bought a pair of emus. They're birds. They're like ostriches. And so I bought a pair. And I spent $2,500 on a pair of birds, Mickey and Minnie. And I was spending a couple $100 a month for them to be housed at a farm, right? An emu farm. And that was probably my worst investment because guess what? The emu farm got to keep the birds. And I just kind of backed out of that.
Myra, only in the South would we hear about buying. We thought you said E-News, like a stock ticker or something.
Yeah, I was like, she got distracted. She was reading too many magazines. Emus, like ostriches. That's amazing.
Yeah. I love it. So that's my biggest mistake. I've been really fortunate in real estate, but again, y'all, I stick to my plan, right? So I've been really fortunate and haven't made a lot of really bad mistakes. I mean, yeah, I've lost a little money on some things, meaning I overspent, or had somebody rip me off, tell me I need a new AC unit, and I didn't because I didn't do my due diligence and get 2 bids. So, I mean, other than that was my biggest. So I guess that's not too bad because I buy and hold, so I'm going to make money. I buy and hold properties. I'm not a seller of properties. I'm just now doing some flips because I'm helping some of my agents do some flips in Kentucky, but that's not really it's not my mojo. It's not what I love.
Well, the moral of the story there is if you go, obviously diversification is great. We just talked about that. But if you go too far out of the shiny object syndrome or too far out of what you're used to or what you know, you can end up buying some emus. So that's maybe the funniest thing we've heard on the show. So question 3, let's say somebody handed you $50,000 lump sum, not taxed. What would you do with it knowing today's market? Or maybe you'd spend it because you're at that point in your life. What would you do with it? 50,000.
Wow, that is a great question. And I want to tell you I would invest it, but I would probably invest it in someone just because of where I'm at right now in my life. So I probably would help one of my young superstars.
Got it.
Do something I love making a difference. And that's really where I'm at in my life now. In 2018, I made a decision that I was going from this day forward. Success is great, but significance is where it's at. And so now I really try to do my best to give reach down, pull somebody up and help them. And so that's what I would do. I would do some kind of investment with some of my peeps.
Really like that.
Cool.
So,
which brings us to
that's cool. I don't know. I really appreciate that answer. So the last question of the core 4 is, and it might even tie into something that you were just talking about, but what do you want your legacy to be? So why do you get up out of bed every morning and do what you do? And just kind of like, what's your why?
I love that. And you guys, I really struggled with my why. I have no children. And so for years, I struggled with my big why. I think that we think that's an easy, I think that I've read the books. I mean, I struggled trying to figure out what was my why. And again, I had an epiphany in 2016, I think it was. I was at a John Maxwell seminar and John was talking about, success is really great. And, a lot of people are chasing success and he started talking about significance. And I was like, that's it. And that's what really made me move towards, because I have plenty of money. I mean, money is only good for the good it can do. And I mean, it's really important that you understand that because we start chasing money and you really lose who you are. And I think we lose our families. I think that a lot of times we get so tied up in spending our time chasing money that our marriages fail, we don't spend time with our kids. Our kids grow up without parents and our closest family. Because when you talk about legacy, I really think about when I die. what are people going to say at my funeral, right? And I think about that stuff. And I lost a couple of really good friends this year to COVID. And I actually got to speak at one of them's funeral. And it really got me thinking about that. And I think that most importantly is what you do with your money. And buying more stuff is not what I want to be remembered for. I want to be remembered for that I gave people opportunity. And I want people to remember me as somebody who looked at them and saw something in them that they did not see in themselves. And I work on that every day with my agents and with the people that have made. I just made two of people that have worked for me for the last, one of them's been there 10 years and one of them's been there 11 years. I just gave them ownership in one of my businesses.
I love that. Wow.
So, and I gave them ownership. And so I think that is way more important. But you know what? You reward people for loyalty and you reward people for their effort.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm at.
I really like that. I think you said you have no kids, but you have 3 babies that I see in your offices, right? You got Denton,
yes.
Kentucky, and then also up in Columbus. But then you also have tons of kids that work for you, right?
Yeah,
and
I
those
do.
are the people you're taking care of, and I think that's admirable. And you're changing way more lives than maybe 1, 2, or 3, like many moms would do, right? You're giving back, giving ownership. So I think it's touching. I think it's really amazing what you're doing, and also giving all the free real estate school too. And it's not just your office, right? You're not pinning people against each other. You're just spreading the wealth, spreading the love. So give yourself a pat on the back. You're doing a hell of a job.
Well, thank you. And, I just feel like every day when I get up, when you ask me, what do I get up and go? Every day when I get up, I'm like, how can I make a difference? What can I do to make a difference? Because life's hard, you guys, and let's just admit it. Life is tough and there's always stuff coming at you. There's always adversity. There's always negativity. Turn the TV off because it will take you down. And there's so much coming at us that it's a choice. And every day I make choices to be happy. I make choices to make a difference. And I just think that how you react to stuff matters. And I just try to always just pause and make sure that I am acting like I want to be remembered by. And I didn't do that when I was younger. Today, I really pay attention.
It's hard to do when you're young because you think you're invincible, especially when you're super young. But I think that at the end of the day, when you look back on everything that you've done, whether you're 15, 20, 40, 70, it's really all about people. Everything comes down to people and what you do with the people that you spend your time with and how they perceive you. So it's hard to think like that when you don't have money because you come from a thought of desperation, and then desperation turns to like you tighten up a little bit. So I think that I love that answer. I think that it seems like you're doing that every day. So thank you. And it sounds like we've made it to the last drop.
Cool. So the last segment of our show, question is, knowing what you know now, if you could go back to, let's say, young Myra, maybe right around age 20, what advice would you give her knowing what you know now?
I would have gotten my real estate license a lot sooner because remember, I was a hairstylist and I was limited on my income because I could not do any more haircuts. So a lot of people out there that may be thinking, about their jobs, and my husband was a policeman, so he was limited on his income. So we were very limited on the money we could make based on the careers we chose. I would tell people to really evaluate what gives you joy. And if that job gives you joy, stay there and love it. And then find you a side hustle to make money to build it even bigger, because otherwise you're limiting yourself. And once you limit yourself, then you can't really have a big life if you've limited yourself by putting yourself in, this is what I earn based on, because my mom was a school teacher, but I had her as a teacher. She's probably one of the best school teachers I've ever had. And I don't say that because she's my mom. I say that because she was committed. But they didn't pay my mom more because she was the best. All the teachers made the same amount of money. the great thing about entrepreneurship, and I would find something that you're passionate about and build a business around it. Because the great thing about entrepreneurship is you can build it as big as you want, and nobody puts you in a box and nobody tells you what you're worth. And I think that is so important, because today there's so much judgment around education and status. And I think that it's hilarious because you know what? It doesn't have to be that way. And that's kind of where I'm at on that.
It doesn't have to be that way. Unfortunately, I don't know that that's going to get much better with social media becoming more ingrained in everybody's lives in terms of the status. But if you can just kind of take a step back, think a deeper layer into what truly matters. I love the idea of building. I mean, we are so passionate about building businesses and also just doing things that we love. That was the whole reason why we started this podcast. We love talking about what we're talking about with cool people like you. So, awesome. This has been an amazing episode. If people want to learn more about you, they want to connect with you, they want to maybe read your book, what's the best way for people to get in touch?
Sure. My book is on Amazon. So Down Home Money, A Simple Approach to Financial Freedom. So you can get it on Amazon. If you like a Southern accent, you can get it on Audible because I read it. So, but if you don't, I tell you to get the paperback. So you can go there every Tuesday. My YouTube channel is Down Home Money. Every Tuesday, I give advice and it's just fun. I may talk about a dividend stock. I may talk about financial freedom. I just whatever I feel like talking about, because you know what? It's my channel and I don't care if it makes money or not. So I have fun with it. And when it's not fun, I won't do it. And I only do one a week because that's all I'm committed to. So it's just a little bit about financial freedom and passive income and real estate. I talk about it all. I talk about being frugal and everything. So anyway, you can go there, and then Instagram's Down Home Money, Facebook's Down Home Money. Honey, it's just all Down Home Money.
I love it. Well, if you need a 1-2 punch for your week every Tuesday or Monday, right?
Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. Okay, we got it.
Yep. Tuesday's my day.
Let Myra
my day, Ryan.
wake you up.
You can have Tuesday. We'll take Wednesday for our show.
Okay,
So
you got it. I love it.
There you go. Well, Myra, it was a pleasure getting to know you. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We learned a lot, and I just super motivated. So thanks so much.
Thank you guys for having me. And listen, I'm here to help you guys. I can't wait till 20 years and I'm on my cane and y'all telling me, woo, man, we did it. We did it. We're free, because that's what it's all about. I mean, freedom. I mean, we live in this great country that allows us to be free. More now than ever, we should realize that. And so I'm just excited for you guys, because I just know what's going to happen, because life gets really big. So get ready. Buckle up.
Thank you so
Myra.
much. That's amazing. Thanks for tuning in this week. If you enjoyed the show and like what you heard, please subscribe, share with friends, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. The more ratings we get, the more eyes we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you all with high-quality guests. It's simple. Open your podcast app, type in our podcast name, The Weekly Juice, click on reviews, and let us know what you think. Thanks so much, and see you next week.